Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, here we are in game number 2. I'm going to be very quick with the intros because something weird is happening. Over here in the top left-ish, we have the blue Zerg player, it's Bly from Team On Fire and Team Expert. And over here in the bottom right, we have the red Protoss player, PtitDrogo from MYI. And PtitDrogo has already scouted out the shenaniganries that's happening. Bly sent out his first worker, his very first worker, and immediately making a gold expansion at his opponent's base. You can tell Bly wants to be done with this. Forge going down as PtitDrogo scouted this out very early on. It's immediately after that gateway that he had already plopped down, already building a pylon. Is Bly gonna let this finish? He's seen the pylon, he's seen the forge, he's seen the gateway. He should know that this is not going to be able to get up safely, right? I guess he's gonna wait for some of these photon cannons to maybe come up. He's gonna just try and delay this. He comes in with more drones. Oh my god, is he gonna try and just build spine crawlers? He's saved up money. He's going for it. The drones are being pulled right now. 3 drones on each one of these cannons could do a lot. Photon cannons are going up right now, but the spine crawler is also going up at the same time. If you can get one of these photon cannons up in the backside in range of this hatchery, it's going to be a bit dangerous, but one spine crawler may be enough to actually deal with this. A zealot comes out, though, is going to be focus firing down that spine crawler. I don't think this is going to work. Second photon cannon also finishes up unscathed, only losing some of that shield health. And I feel like that's got to be it. I don't know how Bly comes back from this. He doesn't even, his spawning pool is done. That's it. That's all he has. A spawning pool. He is sitting down in workers. He's sitting down in tech. He's going to be sitting down in bases pretty soon. If PtitDrogo ever decides to expand over here. But honestly, he could probably safely expand over here the natural expansion in the back door. If he really wanted to. Didn't want to wait for the creep to clean up. Although he does have 2 photon cannons here. So maybe just wait for the creep to clean up and just take the gold. At this point, you invested into the defense. Oh man, even gonna lose the Zergling eggs. It's not even gonna finish. At least he gets all of his money back for them. Knocking down the rocks, making sure he can't just get sidewinded by an adept or a stalker from the backside of those gold expansion. But with so many zealots also produced so early on, Bly can't even afford to drone up. He's sitting on 16 workers and has got to just make pure Zerglings and maybe some queens just to deal with the zealot pressure. Zealot's getting on top of the hatchery. You're already gonna start whittling away at them. And what is Bly's chances in this game? They're not looking too good. He almost gets us around on one of those zealots, but not quite able to finish it off. Queen is now gonna be under fire, and the Zergling's gonna create a bit of a buffer to keep that Queen alive for a little bit longer. He does get a nice surround on one of the zealots, but some good micro from PtitDrogo is going to keep both of these zealots alive and should be able to take out the Queen. Should be able to take out a couple more of these Zerglings. He's already trading quite efficiently. Again, it's not necessarily about the fact that he is killing the entire army of Bly. It's about the fact that he has 2 photon cannons. He's not really worried as long as Zerglings just run straight past the cannons. And Bly is just going to be so far behind in terms of economy. Amazingly enough, Bly did take his expansion, it seems like before the Nexus of PtitDrogo. So he's gonna have an earlier Nexus or an early expansion, but it is still 16 workers at 26. 1 drone mining gas does eventually get up enough money for Zergling speed. Well, what's he gonna do with it? I guess if he knocks down these rocks, he can try and come to the backside, but PtitDrogo's already on top of it. By the time the rocks finally get knocked down, because of the zealot pressure delaying those Zerglings from knocking down the rocks earlier, there's a full wall off over here, or an almost full wall off. I think there's a small little gap. Probably wants to get a zealot or a probe or something over there at some point. PtitDrogo, maybe. No, gonna leave your adept over here to deal with the Zerglings, even though you saw the rocks being knocked down. Am I just wrong? Is this a full wall off? I guess it is a full wall off. Deceptive little areas over there. All right, well, he's gonna have more than enough time to react as he pulls back his adept. He may end up taking a loss on a gateway or something over here, but with a photon overcharge, it really shouldn't be happening. He's not even gonna have to use it, in fact. Second adept pops out, and the Zerglings end up having to retreat out as the Militia Corps just adds in a bit of extra DPS. The kind of funny thing is these photon cannons are they're just protecting the gas geysers and a bit of the Nexus. They're not actually protecting the mineral line that much. So Zergling counterattacks could still be effective later on. Roach Rune's finally coming down, and it looks like this Oracle's gonna have a hard time getting a lot of damage done. Just because the Spore Crawlers are already coming up, the Queens are in position. And I would say that this game is transitioning out to a macro game, but it's really... A macro game is too strong of a word for it, because at this point, PtitDrogo should just be so much further ahead. Yeah, the worker counts aren't that different, but it's about the fact that PtitDrogo can make units and also boost up his economy. And you can see Bly has just been boosting up his economy. He's got 7 workers and a couple of queens. Is that really going to be enough to deal with the adept harassment? Zerg players generally struggle to deal with this adept harassment when they have a normal economy. And now he's sitting on a battered economy. Adepts already taking pretty good trades versus these Zerglings. Queen's getting a lot of damage done. Not that many Adepts are actually going to be able to transfer out. The Oracles also lost a lot of their energy very early on. It looks like finally 2 Adepts do transfer out, but a Roach sitting in the main base. And I've got to hand it to Bly, all things considered. He doesn't take as much damage as I expected, but still takes 5 or so worker losses. 6 worker losses total this game. And is now sitting at 26 to 41. Double Robo also coming out behind this. Oracle's continuing to get a little bit more damage done, as even though the Spore Crawler's there, the Queens are not, and the Queens are that mobile damage, that mobile anti-air that he needs. Looks like Bly may just be going all in with this. Making a couple of Ravagers, picks off an Oracle. Hey, that's always nice. With so many pylons coming up, and even a Photon Cannon coming up. The double robotics facility are over here, which is kind of a little bit awkward, but at the same time also nice for those very fast reinforcements. Pylons are going to get Ravager down eventually, but Photon Overcharge is going to be able to buy so much time. He's still got 2 more left, and by the time those 2 are done, he's going to have a 3rd one to boot. People in the chat scaring me as they're asking for my NVIDIA control panel settings, and I'm like, wait a second, is the stream lagging? No, but it seems like right now Bly's economy and chances in this game may be lagging behind right now compared to PtitDrogo's. He's trying to do his best, but Photon Overcharge is going to be unavoidable over here. The pylon finally goes down. Adepts are going to be able to clean house those. The Queens start to run out of transfuse energy, and the Immortals are also starting to power on through. Bly gets pushed back, and he's got nothing to fall back on. He's got a 3rd expansion up, but there's no workers. He's not even mining optimally off of his 2 bases as far as I'm aware. Yeah, 7 workers in the main base out of the 16. Not exactly what I would call optimal. The weird thing is, I don't even know who picked this map. I want to say that it was Bly because he tried to go for that proxy hatch. And I kind of feel like if somehow, for some reason, PtitDrogo didn't go for the worker scout, if he didn't go for probe scout and immediately see that, he doesn't throw down the pylon on the lower ground necessarily. He maybe waits until he has his Cybernex core up, or is maybe throwing or getting ready to throw up the Cybernex core before he really notices it. And maybe he does finish up that spine crawler. Maybe he does make that whole defense happen at the natural and starts taking over and control this game, but it does not happen in this game. And I imagine that PtitDrogo is going to have his map choice for the next map if things went as I expected in the map vetoes. And it was, in fact, Bly that decided to go for Dasan Station. Oh, well, Twilight Council is going to be coming down. PtitDrogo can kind of just do whatever he wants as long as he macros up a big army and doesn't just eat corrosive bile shots continuously at his front. He still needs to have some good control. I mean, it's sort of scary to think about just if you invest into all these sentries and you just lose them all because you didn't move them out of corrosive bile shots, and then suddenly Zerg player's like, wait a second, I don't actually have to worry about any sort of harassment that you could do besides adept harassment. There's no pressure you can put on me if I lose all those units. It just seems highly unlikely. Even-ish worker counts right now, and Blast continuing to drone on up, but again, where's the lair tech even? There's no lair tech. There's no Galileo reconstitution that's going to be on the way. He's not even making roaches right now. He's sitting on just 5 roaches, 7 ravagers, which can maybe be okay for controlling this choke point for at least a little bit. But as that immortal count starts to build up, as even the void ray count potentially could build up, looks like it's just 1 void ray. It's like the harassment void ray. I feel like I'm back in 2011 when players used to make void rays instead of Phoenix to harass. I wonder why that's still not a thing. I mean, I know that a lot of players make queens these days, but making 3 void rays to harass, I feel like that could work on some maps. King Sejong Station, 3 void ray harassment, clean up overlords and everything, deal with roach ravager attacks. Well, Observer still managed to survive despite the Spore Crawler's best efforts. One Immortal Hardened Shield gets popped, but that's a lot of Corrosive Biles that are now suddenly on cooldown. He's got a few more, as actually he has a lot of Ravagers around. But some good Force Heals are going to make this a very difficult engagement for Bly. Corrosive Biles continuously being lobbed out. Actually getting some pretty good connections over there, but starting to lose some of those Ravagers at the same time. These Force Heals may end up working against PtitDrogo very soon, as he's not exactly sectioning off too many of these Ravagers, but the problem is just there's not enough DPS. Most of the sentries end up falling. Bly is doing about as good of a job as you could ever hope for in terms of defending this, but the Immortals are still alive. War Prism also going to be alive and picking up any of the Immortals that end up taking too much damage, and this is where we start to see the big difference. As good as the Ravager shots for Bly were, as much as PtitDrogo is eating some of them, GG is going to be called, and PtitDrogo is going to be taking game number 1 after the solid early game defense. And that was honestly a pretty straightforward game. PtitDrogo defends against the Proxy Hatchery after a really early scout. He gets both of his Photon Cannons up and also cancels the Spine Crawler. And from there, it was just smooth sailing. It was mostly just about Bly sticking in there, and I can't really blame him for it, but sticking in there in the hopes that PtitDrogo would make a mistake. Dawson Station, a very weird map. There's, of course, a lot of ways that things can go wrong when you have multiple entrances and you have a gold expansion, and you know, you have a Zerg player that makes like 15 Ravagers, something crazy like that, and just lobbing out Corrosive Biles everywhere. Yeah, there's a chance that the Protoss player can make a big mistake and take a much worse engagement than they really should. It was unlikely though, and of course PtitDrogo is a top-notch player who does not let that happen and takes his well-deserved victory. So we are getting ready to hop into the next game. Frozen Temple is going to be the map, so I think with that being said, we'll see you guys in game number 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in game number 2. We have, down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, the man who is ready to go to bed and may very well go to bed against his will very soon. Give it up for Team Experts Bly. Sitting down 0-1 in the loser's bracket of the qualifier. And spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of the map, we have the red Protoss player from Team My Insanity. Give it up for PtitDrogo from France. France versus Ukraine, sitting up 1-0. And again, very close to moving on. PtitDrogo may still actually be getting tired also. It's not as late for him, but it's still pretty damn late. I think it's like 1 hour earlier. And Bly is he just does not want to continue. Okay, here's the reality. If Bly wins this series, he has to play like 3 more rounds tonight. It's already 7 a.m. for him. It's almost 7:20 in the morning, I think, right now for him. So, PtitDrogo moves in, sees there's no natural. He sees pool going down, but where is your expansion? Is it a hidden expansion? I didn't see anything on my way out. He actually scouted here earlier, but he scouted too early. So now he might not actually see that for quite a bit of time. He may really think that this is just a hidden expansion. He scouts over here to this top left-ish corner. He sees the drones. He's gonna follow the money. He knows at this point there's a proxy hatchery. He knows for a fact, and he moves back and he's like, oh, there it is. It's a bit later. Cancels the Nexus. Oh. That's interesting. I guess he wants the extra minerals, yeah, for gateways. Otherwise, I can't think of any reason to. You're already committed over here with your one gateway and your Cyberdex core on the low ground, as well as an early pylon this quickly. You basically have to try and defend this, but it seems like he's just gonna try and give it up. I don't know, maybe he's not making any zealots. There's the first adept coming out. Zerg's gonna be able to make their way into the main base. Spine crawlers are going down en masse, and the really nice thing about this situation for Bly is that he's gonna force out a second cybernetics core for PtitDrogo, and that's a lot of early minerals that are gonna be wasted. Zerg's are going after the pylon, depowering that, making sure that no more adepts can come out, and then he's just gonna immediately move on forward. Now these spine crawlers are gonna have to wait for the creep to actually spread forward so he can get involved in the engagement in the main base. Photon overcharge forced out fairly early on. You're going to want to keep an eye on the Mudshcore energy, because that Mudshcore energy is going to be very, very low very quickly. Spinecrawler's getting involved in the fight. As long as they can at least do some damage, they might as well, because they're waiting for the creep spread. Another creep tumor goes down. It looks like the queen does have enough energy for another creep tumor and does start to spread it. Smart decision for PtitDrogo to spend all of his buildings over here on the far left-hand side. Forces out another foot to overcharge, and now this Mudshcore is going to have absolutely no defenses for pylons. But all the Zergons do get surrounded. Not that many workers end up going down. PtitDrogo handles this pretty well. Only loses 5 workers, and all of these Zergons have gone down. Now an Immortal is out as the robotics facility was made. And this is an all-in by every single definition for Bly. He has to literally end the game on this. And now with the Immortal gets a couple of free pot shots off on the Spinecrawlers. It can use that Immortal hardened shields. As long as it doesn't get surrounded and picked off, it's gonna be in a nice spot. Did he turn off the hardened shields? Yes, he right-clicked off the hardened shields. He wants to use it only when he needs to, not when he just takes a little bit of damage. A couple of Zerglings that do get in and snipe off one of the Adepts. And Mudshcore does get taken out by the Queens. The Queen's very far off of creep. Maybe wants to spend some of that energy to start the creep spread going a little bit further forward. There's no observers coming out. He's just trying to pop out as many Immortals as possible. It makes it a very difficult position for the Protoss player. Has enough energy for a Transfuse, so maybe he'll end up using it on that for one of these Spinecrawlers as he tries to burrow forward. He could very soon get in position in range of the robotics facility, but here we go. Transfuse energy is available. He's gonna Transfuse. He does throw down one Transfuse, gonna buy some time in that Spinecrawler, but it does get taken out. Now Zerglings trying to rally forward, absorbing as many hits on those Immortals as possible, but a second Spinecrawler does go down. The 2 Immortals are still alive. Mudshcore number 2 does get picked off, but so does the Spinecrawlers, and with it, I think a lot of Bly's hopes. PtitDrogo already sitting up 1-0 on Bly. He's getting out another Queen, but can he really do this on pure Zerglings? I don't know if he can. Zealots are coming out again, and then we have another Mudshcore coming out, and funny enough, a Mudshcore may be able to get up enough energy for a second photon overcharge faster if it dies immediately after using all of its energy than if you just waited for 50 energy to regenerate. Behind this Bly has got nothing going on but larva injects for more Zerglings and just more Zerglings, and did I mention more Zerglings and a couple of Queens here and there. But now we're starting to see the Observer being made. This is a big signal. PtitDrogo's feeling comfortable. He's saying, okay, you know what? I have enough that I'm not gonna die if I don't make another Immortal right now. I can afford to get up an Observer, clean up the creep that you have in my main base. Oh, even force fields in these Zerglings. That might actually be like the killing blow if there weren't already enough killing blows already. I suppose Bly could try and turn this into a really weird base trade if for some reason PtitDrogo decides to move out too preemptively. Bly can try and just take expansions right now. I would actually, in this situation, I would not hate if Bly just took a bottom left-hand expansion, because this is the really quote-unquote immobile army compared to Bly's. These Zerglings are pretty much all Bly has, and they are easily going to be able to make it to whatever base Bly has to defend. And I think that the one way that PtitDrogo could maybe end up losing this is in a weird base trade, or if there is some sort of really odd situation, but a War Prism is going to be able to keep the Immortal alive. Oh, he has a Sentry in the War Prism, so he ends up losing one of those Immortals. Has to recall out. Oh my god. And he even keeps the hatchery alive. Bly on fire right now. I don't know if the recall was necessary, but I guess maybe he was concerned about losing the War Prism. I was getting focus fire down by the Queen. Also, 47ness has my emote from my channel, so thank you very much, 47ness. I think you just subscribed to my channel, but I'll check later. Alright, now the hatchery should go down. There's no way you defend this against the Immortal DPS. But the Zergons are going to come in over here. Mothership Core is not with the army, and there's not going to be a recall this time. Immortal's going to potentially end up falling over here. He does not pick it up. Another Immortal comes in the mix. Oh my god, is Bly turning this around? There's no expansion for PtitDrogo. There is now an expansion for Bly. He loses so many of the Zergons, but he takes out the War Prism. He loses the sentries inside of it. Another Immortal comes out. Is Bly really making this work? Are both of the players feeling this tired that this is just turning into this kind of game? I'm not gonna lie, ladies and gentlemen, my neighbors are gonna hate me because this is been such a hype day. What are these games? Maybe we should just sleep deprive every single player, and then we'll get these kind of games all the time. I wouldn't mind that at all. Okay, here's the name of the game. PtitDrogo has the tech still. He's got the robotics facility. He's got sentries and an immortal. And he's got that war prism. But let me tell you something. He has been slacking. He has been making a lot of mistakes with that war prism pickup, and nobody can argue with that fact. There have been a lot of times he's let immortals die, he's let sentries die, and he's got to be so careful with it. But he does have the potential to take on this army, I think. He's got to be very careful with those force seals. I think he ended up overusing some of those force seals just because, again, he's probably tired, and he might end up losing these sentries over here. Oh, he's got to be on point with these pickups. Okay, he's doing a pretty good job of it so far, taking out almost all of those Zerglings, not really losing a whole lot. I don't think he lost any of those sentries anymore. The Zerglings are going to make their way into the main base. He knows that the natural expansion's there, but a couple of Zerglings kind of come on in. Focus firing down that hatchery or that Nexus. At the same time, these Zerglings trying to buy as much time as possible. They're going to try and go back in the main base. He forces himself out. He had to cancel. Oh my god, I didn't see the word cancel, did he? PtitDrogo doesn't have 400 minerals. I don't think he canceled that. He lost it. It died. He lost all 400 minerals. We're talking about a Protoss player that's sitting on one base. We're talking about a Protoss player who has mineral patches down to 400 minerals. He's on 4 mineral patches. Not canceling a Nexus is not something you can afford to do in this situation. Bly has an expansion. Bly does not have a lot of drones, but let me tell you something. He's got better saturation than PtitDrogo. But this army for PtitDrogo is starting to get pretty scary. With so many sentries, these zealots versus a pure Zerglin composition. Oddly enough, this one creep tumor is like this big, or I guess 2 creep tumors. Well done, Bly. You got 2 creep tumors out, so you can spread in both directions. The one direction he's not spreading is toward his main base. But Bailey Nest is going to be coming out. Bailey Nest could be good, but there's so many sentries in here. I feel like if he's going to go for the Bailey Nest, this maybe will work if... Oh man, it's hard because the Phoenix Scouts are going to be coming in, so I don't think he would have time for this. But if he does get up Overlord speed upgrades and Overlord gets to drop Overlords, he could maybe threaten PtitDrogo with Baneling drops. And maybe that would end up being a good way to take an expansion, or to deal with this army. I think he's waiting for the hallucination to expire before taking this. Oh, no, actually he's busy dealing with this War Prism harassment. This is something that I think, I won't say needed to happen earlier on, because I can understand he wanted that War Prism for the defense. I mean, he almost died so many times, despite having the War Prism there with some micro. Imagine if he didn't have a War Prism at all. He might have actually just lost the game by now. So I can kind of understand why he didn't do the harassment earlier, but finally feels confident with it. Is going to continue to warp in more and more sentries. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think that some of you out there might think that Stardust retired from StarCraft. You haven't seen him for a long time. But let me tell you something. He actually did not retire. He, in fact, is probably sleeping somewhere in a bed. He just like lays down occasionally and he'll just possess the soul of a different player out there. And today, right now, what we're watching is that he's actually possessing the soul of PtitDrogo. Probably because both of these players are so tired, PtitDrogo is actually more susceptible to possessment. Is possessment a word? Is possession. Possession. He's more susceptible to possession. But this is exactly what we're seeing. We're seeing the giant number of sentries. Oh my god. These banelings go unscouted because they skirt along the corner. And this Overlord, I feel like, is going to turn into a drop Overlord to drop into the natural expansion. Is PtitDrogo going to be prepared for this? Because he's got no pylons over here to deal with that Overlord. But at the same time, will Bly be regretting not having some of those banelings on the defense right now, because he could very well end up dying soon. You know, he has so much creep spread that he knows that that army is coming in from that angle. There's no reason why he wouldn't be making a lot of these banelings. The drop Overlord is complete. He's making another drop Overlord back at home, but he might end up having to just cancel this third. Luckily for him, the third is not finished, so he can just cancel it. There, okay, I was getting a bit worried that just today has been a bit of an odd day. But they're coming the drops. And boom, down goes the economy of PtitDrogo. He's down to 26 workers again. He hallucinates a couple of Archons though. And here we go. Hallucinated Archons do not do damage to these Overlords. And banelings rain down from the sky. Sentry is getting obliterated, and with a couple of queens, is this going to be enough for Bly? He still needs more of these banelings. He still needs more of the zerglings. He's got 0 zerglings out right now. A spine crawler would do a world of help right now, but even with the immortals in here, even with those good connections, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Good force fields trapping out a majority of the banelings, but some banelings still get a great connection on top of a lot of these adepts. Adept's gonna want to be able to regenerate some of those shields. He's got to be on top of these force fields. I think he might be able to tickle this hatchery down eventually, but PtitDrogo, I think you're going to run out of force fields. Despite how many sentries you have, I think you're going to run out of force fields before you kill off that hatchery with the tickle beams. If the immortals are on top of it, the immortals are on top of the hatchery now. So now he's got a good shot of this. And it seems like that hatchery is going to go down. Even an overlord going down in the process. But here we go. Hatchery goes down. That leaves an opportunity for the banelings to sneak on in. But no. Good force fields coming out from PtitDrogo. The soul of Stardust carries on forward. And PtitDrogo seems like he may be able to take this series 2-0. Bly comes in with all of his drones, but he's got a total of 0 units out. GG gets called. PtitDrogo takes his second defense in this series and tears it on to a victory. And Bly, despite now losing, unfortunately for him, it's so sad for him, but the bright side is he gets to go to bed. He gets to go to bed at 7:30 in the morning. What a day. Big shout out to Bly. I mean, what a trooper. But of course, we do still have PtitDrogo, who is also quite a bit of a trooper and has to play on even further. What an awkward, weird series of events. And this is where I will say, it's getting to that point where, do the Europeans stand a chance with how late they are playing into the night versus the North Americans who are like, okay, cool, it's like 9:30. I'm getting a little bit tired. It's been a long day, but it's still not even my bedtime yet. I'm not getting tucked in by my mommy dearest just yet. But ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna hop to a short little break after that series while we wait for the next series to get started. PtitDrogo is going to go on to face off versus the winner of Euthermal versus Marine Lord, as Euthermal did end up beating Sake. So we'll see if we can hop into any of those games, as well as, of course, Major versus Hearthstone happening right now, as Hearthstone did end up beating Bales in a PvP, and Violet ended up beating Raynor in a ZvZ. So Violet versus True is happening right now. That's the ZvZ happening on the top side. Major versus Hearthstone, a TVP. Marine Lord versus Euthermal, that's a TVT. And PtitDrogo versus Bly, which just finished as a ZvP. And we'll hop to a short break and find out what we're casting next. We'll see you soon. That was the wrong screen. That was a very wrong screen.